Hey guys, tonight's story begins where most stories end with silence, with ash, and with one man left standing. They called it the Nameless Monastery. No one remembers when it was built. No one remembers who carved its cold stone walls. And after the plague came, there was no one left at all except him, the last bell ringer. Oh, alone. And every evening as the sun began to fall, he climbed the narrow stairs, took hold of the worn rope, and rang the bell, not knowing if anyone still heard it, not knowing if the world was even there anymore. This is not a story about survival. It's a story about persistence, about holding on to a ritual long after the audience is gone. If this story brings you a quiet kind of comfort, if you find peace in echoes and ghosts, feel free to like and follow only if your heart tells you to. Tell me in the comments, where are you listening from? What time is it now? It's strangely comforting to know who else is still awake, still hearing the sound that hasn't stopped. So dim the lights, let the silence settle, and listen closely. The bell is about to ring. You wake before the first light touches the stone floor, before the frost has left the corners of the window arches, before the wind has fully settled outside the eastern wall. Your bones ache, not from age alone, but from the cold that has made a home inside you. You have not spoken a word aloud in 5 days. Not since Brother Tomas coughed blood into the basin and whispered his last prayer, too soft to carry beyond his own lips. Now, the silence is your companion. It speaks in the creak of wood, the shift of crows beyond the wall, the breath that rises and fades in the cold morning air. You sit up slowly, rubbing your hands together until they remember they are hands, not stone. The cot beneath you is thin, stuffed with straw that has long since gone soft and sour. You swing your feet to the floor. The robe you pull over your shoulders smells of smoke and wax. It belonged to Brother Elric once. He was the one who taught you the timing of the bells when to call the hours, how to match the rhythm to the breath of prayer. He died 3 weeks ago, buried near the wall, marked by a stone that no longer holds his name. Names do not matter much here anymore. You are the last. The monastery lies in the fold of the forgotten valley, wrapped in pine and shadow, too far from any road that matters. Once there were 30 brothers, then 20, then 10. Now you walk the halls alone, a ghost in flesh, tasked with a duty that no one remembers but you. The bell, it must ring. You do not know why, only that it must, that it has, that it will. You step into the corridor. The air smells of wax and damp stone. Your sandals whisper against the floor. The stained glass in the chapel filters the dim light into colors that no longer touch eyes other than yours. Dust dances in the shafts. The benches are empty. The altar, untouched. A bird perches on the windowsill and watches you pass, head tilted, curious. Perhaps it remembers a time when voices filled these walls. You climb the narrow stair that leads to the belfry, each step worn in the center from centuries of prayer and habit. The rope is rough against your palm. You test its weight, then pull. The bell sounds once. Dee. Hollow. It echoes through the valley like the breath of something older than stone. You listen. Wait, but there is no answer. There hasn't been in weeks. You ring it again. The sound rises into the mist, swallowed by trees and distance. You wonder if anyone still hears it, if travelers pause in the woods and tilt their heads, if farmers on distant hills look up from their tools and whisper, the monks still keep the hour. You like to believe they do, that someone hears, that the sound means something still. The bell is your voice now, your prayer, your memory. You descend the stairs, slower now. The day has begun, though it is hard to tell. The sun does not rise fully in this part of the valley. You prepare your meal bread, hard and dark broth warmed over coals, a sliver of dried apple kept since autumn. You eat without speaking, without hurry. The silence wraps around you like a cloak. You sit near the hearth, feeding small sticks into the flames, watching them curl and collapse. The fire speaks, crackles, whispers. In it, you see faces. For a moment, you think you see Brother Tomas again, seated where he used to pray, hands clasped so tightly his knuckles went white. Then the flame shifts, and the image is gone. You tend the chapel next, sweep the floor, light the candles. Kneel. You do not pray with words. You pray with silence, with breath, with memory. The sun never touches the altar. Not now. The windows are too thick with dust and frost, but you sit until your knees ache, because it is what you did yesterday, and the day before, and because something inside you believes that as long as the chapel is tended, the world will not forget you. At midday, you ring the bell again. One long pull, one short. You used to share the rhythm with Brother Elric. Now, you do both parts. The sound drifts down, across the cloister, into the empty courtyard where snow still clings in the corners. You remember when the brothers used to gather there in the warmth of spring, reading aloud from scripture or working the garden. The garden is wild now. Roots frozen, the well sealed over with wood to keep the snow from filling it. You walk there sometimes, place a hand on the stones, just to remember the shape of it. You keep records in a leather-bound book. Names, dates, weather. You do not know why. Perhaps one day someone will come and want to know what happened here. Perhaps they will read your crooked script and find comfort in the knowledge that someone stayed behind, that someone remembered, that someone rang the bell. You sleep early. The nights are long, and dreams louder than waking. You dream of voices, of hands on your shoulder, of warmth. You wake with tears dried on your cheeks. You do not cry during the day, only in sleep, and only when you forget that you are alone. On the seventh day, you see something, a shape, distant, near the tree line. Moving, you pause, hold your breath, but it does not come closer, not yet. You ring the bell at dusk, louder this time. You listen for an echo that never comes. You wonder if it's your mind playing tricks, if the silence is finally learning how to speak back. But part of you hopes, just a little, that someone is out there, listening. You wake before the light again, not from habit this time, but from something colder than the stone floor, sharper than the hunger that never truly fades. A sense, a pressure behind the eyes, as though the silence itself had turned its face toward you in the dark. You sit up, heart already thudding. The dream is gone, but the weight of it remains. You move slowly, knees stiff, ankles grinding with each motion. You wash your face in a basin where the water has frozen along the edges, the thin ice breaking like old glass as your fingers meet it. You dress without thought. The robe, the belt, the worn sandals, the layers that no longer keep out the cold, but remind your body where it is. You light a candle and make your way toward the eastern corridor. There's no wind this morning, only the soft sound of air moving like breath through hollow places. You climb the bell tower stairs, each one aching in your knees. At the top, you pause. The rope hangs still. You place your hand on it but do not pull. Instead, you look out, toward the trees. The same tree line you've stared at every morning. But this time, it's not empty. The shape is back, far near the second rise. A figure, standing just inside the pines. You squint, hold your breath. It doesn't move, just stands there, like a statue carved from the dusk. Too far to see a face, too far to speak to, but close enough to be real. And somehow, that's worse. You ring the bell. Once, twice. The sound crashes into the valley like a stone into a still lake. Echoes return from the cliffs. Birds scatter from the roof. But the figure doesn't flinch. You blink, and it's gone. You stand for a long time, waiting, hoping it returns. But the trees are silent once more. You descend slowly, your mind racing while your body moves from memory. In the chapel, you light the candles with trembling hands. You recite the verses not aloud, but within, each word traced along the inside of your ribs. You sweep the stone floor in perfect circles. Not for the brothers. For you. For what remains of you. At midday, you climb again. The figure is not there. But you ring the bell anyway. Maybe it heard you yesterday. Maybe it left because it was satisfied. Maybe it's still watching. You don't know what frightens you more. That night, you sit in the scriptorium, where dust has blanketed the shelves like snow. Most of the scrolls are crumbling, but there's one you return to Brother Ansel's record of the Great Frost. You trace the faded words. He wrote about visions, about how silence grows a voice of its own, about how the soul begins to echo when there is no one left to listen to it. You don't know if you're echoing yet, but something inside you is calling. Later, in the refectory, you eat the last piece of root bread. There's nothing fresh left. The stores are thin. You ration them carefully, thinking perhaps a cart might arrive by spring. But now you're not sure anyone remembers the road to this place. You keep a small candle burning near your bed, not because you're afraid of the dark, but because darkness without flame feels too final. As you lie beneath your thin blanket, you listen for the wind, but it doesn't come. Just that same stillness, that breathless, expectant hush. Before you sleep, you write a note in your ledger day, 87 since Brother Tomas passed. The figure appeared again, standing east. No movement, no sound, possibly hallucination, possibly something else. You don't know who you write for, but it feels necessary, like tending the chapel, like ringing the bell, like breathing. The next morning, the figure is gone again. You ring the bell at dawn, then again at midday, then again at dusk. And just before sleep, when you walk the cloister to clear your thoughts, you see something on the stone at the eastern gate. A mark, charcoal, drawn by a finger. A simple cross. Not yours, not the brother's. Different. A curve beneath it, like a sickle. You stare at it for a long time. Then, without knowing why, you wipe it away. Not because you're afraid, but because the silence is no longer empty, and you're not sure what lives in it now. The days no longer carry names. You no longer count them. You wake, you walk, you ring the bell, and in between, you exist somewhere between silence and memory. But the mark has changed something. You feel it in your steps, in the way your hand hesitates over the rope, in how long your eyes linger on the trees beyond the eastern gate. It wasn't a symbol of the brothers. It wasn't even a pilgrim's mark. It was something else. Something you don't understand, but that knew exactly where to place itself on the gate. Just high enough to be seen. Just crude enough to feel urgent. You begin checking the gate each morning. First with suspicion, then with something colder. Expectation. 3 days pass. Nothing. On the fourth day, another mark. This one lower, near the base of the gate, where the frost settles thickest. A symbol like a broken wheel. You crouch beside it, touch it. The charcoal smudges beneath your finger. Still fresh. You are not alone here. That night, your dreams change. No longer voices. No longer warmth. You dream of the forest dense, endless, as bells ringing somewhere beneath the earth, of something watching you from behind trees that bend when you look at them. You wake covered in sweat, breath shallow, as if the air has thickened while you slept. You sit up. Listen. But there is only stillness. You rise. Light the candle. Walk the halls. Each step echoes like it's not alone. In the chapel, the air is colder than it should be. The candles have gone out, though you remember lighting them. You relight one, then another. The flame flickers higher than normal, then dies. You feel your skin tighten. You say a prayer, not from memory. From instinct, words without form, just sound. The next morning, you do not eat. Your stomach rejects the thought. You climb to the belfry and hesitate. The rope feels heavier, as if ringing the bell now means something more than time. You pull once. The sound rolls out, but something in you waits for a response. A second chime. A cough. A word. Nothing comes, but the silence no longer feels empty. You begin to notice other changes. Stones moved in the courtyard. A single feather placed on the chapel step. Your broom missing from its hook. You find it 2 days later in the scriptorium, leaning against a scroll you haven't opened in years. You writing your journal again? Someone is here. Or something that knows how to leave signs. The marks are not random, but not hostile. Not yet. At dusk, You hear a sound outside the refectory. Soft. A shuffle. You stop, press your back to the wall, and listen. Another sound. Not animal. Not wind. A footstep. When you turn the corner, the space is empty. But the dust bears an imprinted bare foot. Small. You kneel. Touch it. Human. Not a man's. Lighter. A child's? No. Not quite. The length is wrong. The shape too narrow. The next morning, you find something at the base of the bell tower. A bowl. Clay. Inside it, a handful of blackberries. Frozen, but unspoiled. Fresh. From the forest. It's an offering. Or a message. You take it to the chapel. Place it on the altar. You do not eat the berries, but you do not discard them. Instead, you light the candles again, and this time, they stay lit. You sing. Just once. A hymn you haven't sung in years. Your voice cracks, but it fills the stone. The sound echoes, and something within you eases. Not peace, but recognition. That night, when you sleep, you dream of the bell. But it does not ring. It spins, as if caught in wind. Beneath it stands a figure, hooded, not approaching, just watching, holding something, a bowl of berries. When you wake, you go to the altar. The bowl is empty. The berries are gone. You are certain they were real. You check your journal. The entry is there. But below it, a second line you do not remember writing. He is listening. You stare at the ink. Still wet. You place the journal down. Ring the bell. The sound crashes outward. And from the forest, a whisper. Barely sound. Barely wind. But something. Something that says, not yet alone. The mist comes early. Thick and low. As if the very earth has begun to breathe in its sleep. You wake to find the world outside your window blurred, softened. The trees are ghosts. The bell tower is a shadow. The path from the refectory to the chapel is barely more than a line through whiteness. You dress slowly, listening for sound, but there is none. Not even birds. You step outside. The air is colder than it should be. Wet. It clings to your robe and beard, finds the spaces between your fingers. You light a lantern and make your way toward the belfry, your feet moving by memory. At the base of the stairs, you pause. The door is open. Not wide. Just enough. You never leave it like that. You've always closed it. Even when the others were still alive. You step inside slowly, holding your breath. The stairs creak. Always have. But this time, they sound louder, like something is listening. At the top, the bell waits. Still, silent, you approach the rope. Touch it, but do not pull. Instead, you look out. The fog is endless. It wraps around the trees like fingers. Then you see it movement, not far. Near the gate, a figure, not quite standing, not quite kneeling, hunched. Still, your heart stutters. You try to speak, but no sound comes. You raise your hand, but the figure does not react. Then slowly it stands, not straight, not tall, but with purpose. It turns, faces you, and vanishes into the mist. You ring the bell. Hard. The sound rips through the valley like a blade through cloth. You listen for a response, for breath, for a footstep. But nothing comes. You descend. Check the gate. The courtyard. The chapel. Nothing. No footprints. No berries. No new mark. But you know what you saw. The fog does not lie. It only hides. You spend the day walking the perimeter. You speak aloud now. To yourself. To the air. Short words. Phrases. As if reminding your throat how it works. I saw you, you say once. Come again. The fog answers only with silence. At dusk, you light every candle in the chapel, 21 of them. One for each brother buried beyond the eastern wall. You kneel in the center, surrounded by flame and shadow. You do not pray with words. You Sit. Still. Listening. The font presses at the stained glass. The windows glow with soft color. The light wavers. Then one flame flickers higher than the rest. Then another. One by one, they rise, like breath drawn in unison. You feel something. Not warmth. Not fear. Attention. The presence of something listening. You close your eyes. And in that moment, it comes. A sound. Not wind. Not voice. A breath. Inside your head. Inside the chapel. Just one word. Not spoken aloud. Just there. Stay. You open your eyes. The candles are steady again. The room is still. But the word remains. It echoes without echo. You do not move. The air tastes of ash and pine. You whisper, "Why?" But there is no reply. That night, you do not sleep. You sit in the cloister, wrapped in your robe, watching the fog crawl across the stones. You write in your journal. He speaks. Not in voice. In thought. The fog carries it. The air holds it. The chapel awakens. This place remembers. You do not know if the he is a man, a spirit, or your own unraveling mind. But it no longer matters. What matters is that you are not alone. And perhaps you never were. At dawn, the fog remains. You light the lantern again, and you wait, not for salvation, not for visitors, but for understanding. Because something has awakened, not just in the forest, not just in the monastery, but in you. The fog lifts slowly, not all at once like a curtain, but in layers, retreating like an old tide. First the tops of the trees return, then the bell tower, then the sky, still gray, but no longer suffocating. You stand in the courtyard, watching it fade. The stones beneath your feet are damp, moss-darkened. The mist has left behind silence that feels emptied. Not peaceful, hollowed. You glance toward the eastern gate. No marks today. No figure. No footprints. But the stillness carries weight. You turn and walk the cloister, slowly, listening for anything out of place. The wind returns around midday soft, barely a whisper, as if unsure it is welcome. You eat for the first time in 2 days. Broth, warm, thin. It tastes of memory. In the chapel, the candles wait. You light 3. No more. You sit beneath the stained glass and read from a psalter you once knew by heart. The words are unfamiliar now. Strange, distant, like echoes from a language you used to speak in another life. You read them anyway. You turn to the bell tower, as always, but halfway up the steps you stop. A sound. Subtle. A shift. You turn. Look toward the old library wing. No one has entered it in weeks, maybe months. The shelves are bare. The roof partially collapsed. But something pulls you there. You cross the courtyard. The old door resists you, swollen by damp, worked by time, but eventually yields. Inside, cold, dust, quiet. You breathe it in. The books are mostly gone. Taken long ago. Burned, perhaps. But one shelf remains, tucked behind a fallen beam. And behind that shelf something stranger. A door. Narrow. Barely visible. You do not remember this. You kneel. Brush away the dust. Your fingers find the handle. Rusted. Unmoving. But after a long breath, it turns. The door creaks inward. A stairway. Down. You hesitate. Not from fear. From certainty. This was meant to remain forgotten. You descend. Slowly. Stone beneath your feet. The air thickens, becomes colder, more ancient. The staircase curves, and the light from above fades. You hold your lantern high. The passage opens into a room. Small. Square. Stone walls. And impossibly no dust. The air is still, but not stale. It feels watched. You step forward. There is a pedestal in the center, made of iron. Upon Ita book. bound in leather so dark it could be mistaken for shadow. You do not touch it. You circle once. The walls are marked with symbols, not letters, not runes. Shapes. Circles within circles. Spirals. Lines that weave like vines or veins. One of them glows faintly when you pass. You feel heat from it. Then cold. Then nothing. You turn back to the book. On the cover, a single symbol you recognize. The same curved cross drawn in charcoal on the gate. You reach out. Your hand hovers. You whisper, "What are you?" And the book opens on its own. No wind, no touch, just motion. Pages turn. Once, twice, then stop. A word appears. Not written. Formed, as if growing from the parchment like frost from glass. A name, not yours, but one you know. Elric. Your breath catches. Brother Elric, your teacher, your friend. Buried beneath the pine behind the cloister. You whisper the name. The ink fades. Another word rises. He remembers. The lantern dims, then flares. You step back. The page turns again. But this time, you close the book. Carefully, gently, as if placing the lid on something that might wake. You leave the room. Slowly. You do not run. The stairs feel longer now. Heavier. You reach the surface and close the hidden door. You do not mark it. You let it vanish behind the shelf. Back in the courtyard, the sun has lowered. The bell has not rung today. You climb the tower and pull the rope. The sound is different. Deeper. As if the bell has learned a new tone. You listen. And then you hear it faint, but clear. A second bell. Somewhere beyond the trees. Distant. Familiar. Answering. You sit at the top of the bell tower long after the last echo fades. The sound still lingers inside your ribs. You heard it. You know you did. A second bell, distant but deliberate, like someone answering across a great void. You wait. Minutes pass. Then, an hour. Nothing follows. Just wind returning to its slow breath through the pine. But you no longer feel alone in your listening. Something on the other side is awake. That night you do not sleep. Instead, you sit by the cold hearth in the refectory, the stone warm only where your hands rest. You place the blackberries bowl before you, not empty now, but filled again, with pine needles, arranged carefully, symbolically. A circle crossed once. You stare at it, not with fear, but with a growing sense of invitation. You rise before dawn. You gather your things, not to leave, but to follow. You wrap bread in cloth, fill a flask with the last of the melted snow, bring a candle. Your journal. The silver bell pendant once worn by Brother Tomas. Around her neck, it swings once, softly. You climb the tower. Ring once. Then listen. Nothing. You ring again. Then wait. The answer comes slower this time, but it comes. A hollow bell, deeper, like iron half buried in snow. You descend and walk to the eastern gate. There, in the frost footprints. Small, light, leading into the trees. You follow. The forest swallows you whole. The light dims under branches heavy with snow. The silence grows thick, textured. No birds, no wind, just the faint whisper of your own breath and the crunch of each step. The footprints twist through the trees, following no path. But they never hesitate. They wind deeper, until even the sky disappears. Then, suddenly clearing. Small, perfectly round. At its center, stone. A pillar, broken at the top. Covered in moss and faint carvings. On its side another mark. The circle cross. You step closer. The air changes. Not colder, denser. Like breath caught before speech. You touch the stone. It's warm. Just slightly. You close your eyes and hear it again. The bell, but not far. Close. Beneath. You kneel, place your ear to the ground. There, a vibration. Rhythmic, slow, alive. You press your hand to the soil. Whisper, I hear you. The vibration fades, but the want stays. You open your journal? Right. The bell answers from beneath the forest. From below, there is something living here. Not flesh, not ghost. Memory, perhaps, rooted deep. You sit for a long time beside the pillar. Watch how the light filters through the trees, how the snow doesn't settle here, how the silence feels reverent. When you rise, you do not follow the footprints back. There are no more. They vanish beyond the stone. Instead, you walk by instinct, trusting some thread within you to guide you home. It takes hours, but you return. The monastery stands as it always has, but it no longer feels alone. You ring the bell that evening with a new rhythm. Not the one Elric taught, not the one the order passed down. A new pattern. Call and pause. Wait and echo. And when the sound fades, you listen again. And hear, not a bell, but a chime. Like wind against iron, like breath across a string. The voice in the fog has shape now. Not human, not beast, but aware and watching. And perhaps waiting. You sleep, finally. Not from peace, but from exhaustion. Your body gives in while your mind still listens. The dreams come slowly, folding into each other like pages turned by wind. At first, trees, moving though there is no breeze. Then, the bell tower, but leaning, broken, overgrown with vines that move like hands. And then, the clearing again. The pillar, but this time, it opens. A seam cracks along its base, wide enough for a voice to rise from below, not in words, but in rhythm, as if the earth itself were ringing. You wake before sunrise, heart heavy, breath shallow, the air in your lungs thick with something unspoken. You write, though your hands shake, the bell is not calling. It is answering. Something speaks through it. Something older than us, older than the chapel, older than the stone. You walk the monastery grounds as if seeing them for the first time. The walls feel thinner. The chapel floor creaks louder. The shadows linger longer than they should. And yet you are not afraid. You light the chapel candles one by one. Kneel. The silence wraps around you like cloth. But it is not empty anymore. It listens. That afternoon, you return to the pillar. You bring no tools, only your hands. You kneel, brush the moss again, look for what was only a dream. But dreams, in this place, are not fiction. You find it, a crack, hair thin, almost missed. You press against it. Nothing moves, but the air shifts. A sudden gust of wind rustles the trees, though the sky is still. The clearing darkens slightly, as though clouds have passed overhead, but there are no clouds. You step back, sit in silence. Wait. The crack remains, unmoving. But something within it hums. You leave a piece of bread beside the pillar, a gift, a sign, and return to the monastery. That night, as you light the last candle, you hear something behind the chapel wall. A rustle, a whisper. You freeze. But you do not move away. Instead, you speak aloud for the first time in days. I hear you, you say. You can speak if you choose. Nothing answers. But the air grows warmer for just a moment, like a breath against the back of your neck. The next morning, a new offering awaits at the chapel door. Not berries, not pine, a feather, long, white, perfect, placed across the threshold as if laid by a careful hand. You pick it up. It smells of smoke and winter. You carry it with you all day, tucked into the sleeve of your robe. You feel it against your skin as you sweep the courtyard, feed the last of the stores to the fire, clean the basin in which no one has bathed in weeks. The monastery remains still, but not lifeless. The bells ring themselves now. Softly, once or twice at dusk. You do not pull the rope. The chime comes from elsewhere, perhaps the tower. perhaps beneath the trees. You do not question it. That night you return to the hidden room below the library. The book remains, closed, dustless. You place the feather upon it. Wait. After a moment, the book breathes open. A new page. This one blank. Then, lines form, not symbols. A sketch. Your monastery, seen from above. Then beneath it, a shape, like roots, like veins. A structure beneath the ground. You trace the lines. They form a circle. Then an opening. Then the same mark the curved cross at the center. Beneath your feet, you whisper, "What is this?" And the answer appears. Sanctum. Your breath catches. The book closes. You leave the chamber and ascend in silence. The bells do not ring. The night does not whisper, but the monastery breathes. With you, beneath you, through you. And now you understand. You have not been tending a ruin. You have been keeping a door. You walk the monastery as if walking above a body you didn't know was breathing. Every step now carries weight. The stones beneath your feet are not just stone. They are lid, skin, seal. You feel it in the way the wind circles the tower, in the way the flames in the chapel bend without draft, in the way you hear the bells in your chest before they ever sound. The book said one word: sanctum. Not tomb, not prison, not shrine, but something older. You return to the clearing, this time with tools only: a chisel and a lantern. The crack at the base of the pillar is wider than before. You kneel, begin to scrape gently. You do not rush. You do not speak. After an hour, the moss gives way. The stone beneath is etched with more symbols, many like those in the hidden chamber, some entirely new. You touch one. It stings, not pain, recognition. Then, a tremble, very faint, from below. The stone beneath your knees pulses once, then settles. You freeze. Then, lean in, whisper, "I am listening." There is no answer, but the trees around the clearing shift, though there is no wind. That night you write, "It is waking," or "I am." We may be the same now. The monastery was never empty. It was waiting for me to notice. You dream again, not of fire, not of ruin, but of breath. Long, slow breath from deep beneath the earth. In the dream, the monastery is whole again. Every brother alive, candles lit, songs sung. But beneath the chapel floor, roots, not wood, not vine, but vein, moving, glowing faintly, carrying light from the earth into the sky. You wake with your hand shaking. You go to the bell tower, ring once, then wait. This time the answer is immediate, closer, no longer distant. A second bell, but not metal. Stone, echoing from beneath. You walk to the chapel. Kneel, light no candles, just sit and listen. For an hour, then two. Just before dusk, you hear it. A footstep, not behind you, beneath, directly under the altar. You rise, walk slowly toward it. Kneel again, place your ear to the floor. The sound is clear. A heartbeat, not yours. You lie flat, press your palm to the stone. "I am ready," you whisper, and the floor warms beneath your touch. You open the trapdoor in the library that leads to the hidden chamber. The book is gone. In its place a stone, small, smooth, glowing faintly from within. You pick it up. It hums, like the bell, like the breath, like the name you almost remembered but have never spoken aloud. You carry it back to the chapel, place it upon the altar. The stone dims, then brightens, then dims again. A pulse, a signal, a rhythm. You sit in silence as it continues. And when the first star appears beyond the stained glass, you realize something deep and quiet and terrible. The bell was not meant to call people to prayer. It was meant to keep something beneath the earth asleep. and it has been ringing less often lately. And the heartbeat is growing stronger. You do not ring the bell the next morning. You climb the tower, wrap your hand around the rope, and hold it, but you do not pull. You stand there as the wind brushes against your face, soft and chill, as though trying to tell you something it can't shape into words. Below, the monastery is still. The walls have begun to darken from frost again. The stones crack quietly in the cold, but the silence no longer feels natural. It feels like something waiting. You descend and return to the chapel. The stone you placed on the altar continues to pulse. Slowly, gently. It glows now, not only with light, but with warmth. And each glow feels like a breath against your palm when you hold your hand above it. You remove one of the old wooden tiles from the floor beneath the altar. Beneath that, stone. Flat. Cracked. The shape of the crack matches the lines you saw in the book. It's not a flaw. It's a seal. You run your fingers along the edges. They're smoother than the surrounding stone, worn not by weather, but by touch hands, over time, pressed in prayer or in warning. You lie down, ear against it. The sound is clearer now. Not just a heartbeat, but movement, like something shifting beneath layers of earth, slowly turning in sleep. You close your eyes and listen, and in that stillness something happens. You feel seen. Not watched, not stalked, seen, known. The presence beneath you is vast, but not malevolent. Not yet. It is aware of you, just as you have become aware of it, and it has begun to listen. That evening, you do not light candles in the chapel. You do not sing. You simply sit, and the wind does not enter the chapel that night. It circles the building, touches the walls, but does not cross the threshold. The stone continues to glow. You do not dream when you sleep. Instead, you float, suspended in the heartbeat beneath the altar, in the ringing that no longer echoes from above, but from within. The next morning, you find something outside the eastern gate. A small pile of soil, black, rich, fresh. In it, a sprouting vine, pale but growing. Roots not torn from the ground, but pressed into it as if planted by careful hands. You touch it. It pulses. Once. Like the stone. Like the bell. Like the thing beneath. You dig gently around it and find a second stone, smaller than the one on the altar, but marked with the same curved cross. You bring it inside. You do not add it to the altar. Instead, you place it in the empty bowl once filled with blackberries. The bowl hums. You feel it in your teeth. The library is colder than before. The trapdoor groans as you open it. The chamber below no longer feels secret. It feels alive. The walls have changed. Symbols that once lay dormant now shimmer softly. The lines pulse, connecting points like constellations. The book has returned. Closed. On the cover, a new mark your own name. Not carved, not inked, formed, as if the leather remembered you. You do not touch it. Not yet. You return to the chapel. The altar is warmer now. The floor beneath it vibrates so faintly that your knees tingle when you kneel. You place both hands on the stone and speak aloud. I know you are there. I know you've waited. I don't know what I am meant to do. The glow brightens. The pulse slows. Then, for the first time, the floor shifts. Just slightly. A groan. A breath. A warning. Or a welcome. You rise slowly. Return to the bell tower. Ring once. Then wait. And, from below not, the echo of a bell. A voice. No words. Just tone. D. Layered. Older than language. Younger than time. It vibrates your spine. Brings water to your eyes. You clutch the rope. Not to ring. To hold yourself steady. Because now you understand. You are no longer ringing the bell to wake the world. You are ringing it to speak to the heart buried beneath it. And it has begun to answer. The stone beneath the altar breathes now. Not metaphor. Not dream. You feel it when you enter the chapel subtle, rhythmic, as if the floor rises half a grain of dust with each slow inhalation. The air is warmer than it should be. The cold no longer bites your skin. It holds it. And in the center of that warmth, always, is the sound not loud, not sharp, but ever present. A hum that lives in the gaps between silence. You wake earlier now, not because of duty, but because you feel its presence in your sleep, calling not with urgency, but with gravity, as if a great door has begun to shift on ancient hinges and you are the one holding the key without knowing where it fits. You no longer ring the bell on schedule. You ring it when you feel the pressure build in the walls, when the breath beneath you deepens, when the echo inside your chest tightens, and each time, the bell answers. From within, from below, from the sanctum. The book in the hidden room waits for you now. Always closed, always changing. Each day its cover bears a new symbol. A circle, a broken line, a root, a star. You begin sketching them in your journal, trying to find a pattern, but there is none. Not one your eye can follow. You begin to dream in shapes, not events. You no longer see people, not even the brothers, only movements, veins of light, breath moving through stone. And once, just once, you dream of your own face reflected in water, but it isn't your eyes staring back. It is something older, something beneath. On the 7th morning, you return to the clearing in the woods. The pillar has cracked, a perfect split down the center. From the gap rises a fine mist, almost golden, vanishing as it touches the air. Around the base of the pillar, new vines have grown, pale, translucent, tipped with small silver leaves that ring faintly when touched. You kneel. The ground beneath you feels thin, as though a shell separates you from something alive and moving. You press your palm to the soil. Close your eyes, and in that moment, you hear it not with ears, but through your skin. A word, not in any language you know, but you know its meaning. It is a name, not yours, not the monastery's. Its name, the thing below. You do not try to speak it. You know instinctively it must never be spoken aloud, not by human voice. It exists in the space between heartbeat and breath. It is sacred, heavy, waiting. When you rise, you leave a mark on the pillar, not carved, not drawn, but simply traced with your finger. A circle open at the bottom, a gate, an echo of the thing beneath. That night, the wind carries sound again, not speech, music, low, droning tones, as if the world beneath the world were beginning to stir. You sit at the altar. The glow from the small stone is steady now, like the rhythm of a watchful heart. And, for the first time, the floor beneath it opens, silently, stone shifting like breath, revealing steps. Down, you do not descend, not yet. You only stand. Look, listen. The breath from below touches your face, warmer than any fire, older than the memory of warmth. And inside it, peace. And something else. Not danger, not fear. Purpose. You whisper, I understand. And from below comes an answer not in words. In silence, that means yes. You close the floor again. Carefully, reverently, you ring the bell once. It answers from within. That again, and this time, you are certain. The sound no longer travels outward. It travels down, deep, into the name that has waited for centuries, into the sanctum, into the thing that now knows you and accepts you. You stand at the threshold for what feels like hours, staring down into the darkness that is not absence, but presence. The stone steps curve gently out of view, worn smooth not by feet, but by time itself. This is not a place someone built. It is a place that was always here, waiting. You don't bring a lantern. When you tried, the flame died the moment across the jazz, though the dark below has its own breath and no room for fire. But you are not afraid. The air rising from the sanctum is warm, not stale or dead, alive, ancient. It smells not of dust, but of soil after rain, of pine long buried, of pages never written. You descend. One step, then another. Your sandals touch the stone without sound. The walls around you are close at first, then slowly pull back, as if the passage is exhaling with each level. Symbols mark the walls familiar now. The same you've seen in the book, on the pillar, in your dreams. They pulse faintly, not with light, but with rhythm, like veins beneath skin. You keep your hand on the wall, not to guide yourself, to feel it, to know the heartbeat is still there, that it welcomes you, that it knows you are coming. The further you descend, the more you feel the sound inside your body. Not around you, but within you. A low hum, not mechanical, organic, rooted. 5th step. 6th, a turn, and then the chamber opens, wide, round, a dome carved directly from the earth, seamless, impossible. There is no torch, no window, yet you see. The walls give off no light, but the space glows softly, as if memory itself has illuminated the stone. At the center of the floor, raised by a single black column, is a pedestal, and resting on a mask. Smooth, stone, faceless, only the shape of a human face and no mouth, no ears, just 2 empty eyes. And from them, a faint silver mist rises, curling upward and vanishing before it reaches the ceiling. You step forward. The air thickens not like water, but like language, like meaning. The closer you come, the more your skin hums with sensation. Not cold, not heat. Recognition. You reach the pedestal. You place your hands beside the mask. You expect stone. Cold. But it's warm. Like skin warmed by sun. It does not sit idle, it rests with intention, as if it has waited for your palms. You lean closer, and then you see it. Inside the hollow eyes, reflection. But not your face, as it is now. Younger, sharper, without the burden of loss. A version of yourself untouched by silence. Then another flicker. The reflection changes. You see Brother Elric. Then Tomas. Then the child from your dreams. Then someone else. Someone you do not know, but you feel you will. One day, you lift the mask, slowly, with reverence. The mist fades. The hum in your chest grows louder, then quieter, like something drawing a long, slow breath. You hold the mask before you. You don't know what to do. And then your hands move. Not by decision, by memory. You place the mask against your face. It fits perfectly. Not heavy, not foreign, as though your bones have waited to meet it. The world disappears, not in darkness, in silence. Total, clean. For the first time in years, you hear nothing, not even your own breath. But you feel everything. The monastery above, the forest beyond, the bell tower, still and tall, the chapel with its flickering candles, and the thing beneath it all. Not a god, not a demon, not a beast, a memory, a presence. You, but older, wider, rooted in the stone, and ringing through every breath you've ever taken. A voice not of words, but of being, speaks into your marrow. You were never the last. You were the echo. You fall to your knees, not in fear, not in praise, in understanding. You remove the mask. Slowly, the mist returns. The mask breathes again. But now, you carry the rhythm in your chest. You rise. You ascend the stairs. And with each step, the heartbeat follows. Not from below, from within. And when you emerge into the chapel, the candles all flare at once without flame, as if the sanctum is no longer asleep. As if you, the bell ringer, were never meant to guard silence but to awaken it. You walk the halls differently now, not faster, not slower, but as if the stone beneath your feet finally knows your name and calls you by it with each step. The walls no longer feel cold. They feel aware, not watching, Holding. The bells no longer echo when you ring them, they resonate, as though they strike a chord in something deeper, and the sound moves not out, but inward, downward, backward, through layers of time. The brothers' cells are empty, but you feel their presence when you pass, not as ghosts, as intentions. Their prayers still hum in the mortar. Their breath is sealed into the grain of every bench and doorframe. And now you begin to hear them, not as words, as suggestions. You kneel in the chapel and feel the warmth beneath you, soft and constant. The heartbeat, the presence, the name you were given in silence. You carry it now, not on paper, not aloud, but in rhythm. The mask rests within the sanctum once more. You placed it there after returning, carefully, gently, with a bow of the head you didn't plan to make. It belongs there. It is not a relic. It is a key, a vessel, a mirror for things not yet born. Since you wore it, the dreams have changed. They are not dreams, not really. They are memories, but not your own. You walk places that no longer exist. You speak languages that twist like branches and ripple like water. You hear songs sung not with voice, but with movement, with light, with breath. You begin to understand. The monastery was never just a place of worship. It was built atop something older, not evil, not holy, just alive. A consciousness too vast for form. It doesn't speak to command. It listens to remember. And through the bell, it remembers everything. Every name, every death, every silence held by every monk who ever walked these stones. You light no candles now unless the air shifts. When it does, you know something is being remembered. A moment, a life. You sit, you wait, and the flame answers. One evening, you return to the clearing. The stone pillar has collapsed and not broken, just folded into the ground, as if sinking home. Where it stood, a pool now gleams, shallow, perfect. In its reflection, you see not sky, but memory. You kneel, look deeper. You see Brother Tomas ringing the bell. You see yourself, years younger, watching from the stair. You see a woman's face, her mother's, or a version of her. You do not remember her clearly, but the pool does. It remembers everyone, everything. It is not water. It is archive. You whisper your name, not the one you were born with, not the one written in the Brotherhood registry, the one the sanctum gave you, the one you've never spoken aloud. The pool shivers and shows you a tree, tall, black, rooted in a field of stars. Its branches glow with light, and at the center of its trunk your heartbeat. The pool fades. The forest dims. You return to the monastery. The wind speaks your name now not in voice, but in shape. It moves through the bell tower with purpose, brushing the rope just as your hand reaches for it. When you ring the bell, the sound no longer feels like a call. It feels like a turning page, a signal to something beyond time that memory still breathes here. You write less in your journal now. Not because you forget, because forgetting is no longer possible. Every moment is carved somewhere deeper than page, etched into rhythm, into breath, into stone. And you begin to wonder, if all of this has been remembered before this monastery, this voice, this heartbeat, then perhaps you too have stood here before. And if not you, then someone who wore your name in silence, someone who answered the bell when the earth called out to be known. It begins with the breath, not yours, deeper, beneath the chapel, under the floor where the stone still warns in steady pulses. You feel it now without touching the ground, in the walls, in the bell, in the hollow space behind your sternum, where your own heart has begun to beat slower, quieter, as if it's trying to sync with something older. The sanctum does not speak in language. It speaks in feeling, in rhythm. You no longer wait for dreams. You enter them, willingly. Each night you kneel at the altar, close your eyes, and descend not into sleep, but into memory. Not your own, not anyone's. Memory carried not by people, but by place, by stone, by air. The bell tower no longer waits for your hand. Sometimes the rope moves on its own, gently, with the same cadence you once gave it. It rings not to call, but to anchor, to remind the world above that something is still being kept, and that keeper is no longer just you. One morning, you stand before the mirror in the refectory. The glass is old, warped, but what you see is different now. Not unrecognizable, but shifted. Your face is yours, but the eyes are not. They are deeper, like two bells struck in still water. When you speak, your voice feels lower, fuller, not changed, joined. You are not possessed. You are inhabited. You do not resist. You do not retreat, because you know now what the others forgot, what the brothers once knew but feared too greatly to preserve. The bell is not an instrument. It is a language, a name, and when struck properly, it speaks a phrase the earth itself listens to. The sanctum is a mouth, a heart, a memory without form, but it needs shape. And it has chosen yours, not to command, to remember. One afternoon, as you walk the cloister, you hear voices, not whispers, not echoes, but full sound. You turn, no one. You walk faster, hear footsteps behind you. You pause. They do too. You breathe. The air behind you breathes as well. You turn again. The path is empty, but you feel it. Something walking with you, not behind. Within, you return to the hidden room beneath the library. The book lies open, pages blank, until your hand hovers above it. Then, writing, line by line, in a script you do not know but somehow understand. Not letters, not runes, impressions. The page says, you are not becoming something new. You are becoming what was always beneath. The flesh was the bell. The bell was the veil. The veil is lifting. You close the book. Your hand is trembling, but not from fear, from memory. You now recall the day the monastery was built, stones lowered into place, voices chanting, a name spoken once, then buried. You remember it not because someone told you, but because the stone told you. The wind, the bell. One night, the chapel is filled with music. No instruments, no voices, just a resonance, a deep, vibrating chord that trembles the glass, that ripples in your chest like a breath held for centuries and finally released. You kneel, not in worship, in alignment. You press your hands to the floor and feel the world shift around you, not physically, internally. Your ribs widen, your breath deepens, your spine tingles like a string being tuned. And you realize you are becoming a conduit, a vessel not of knowledge, but of continuity. You are not meant to tell the world what lies beneath. You are meant to carry it, quietly, patiently, through the years, through silence, through generations. You walk now not only as yourself, but as the bell, as the name, as the memory that refuses to be lost. And when you ring the bell next, it doesn't just sound, it speaks, not in a voice, in being, in presence. And far away, across forests, across rivers, across ruined roads and forgotten fields, someone hears it. Someone stops, looks east, and says, it still rings. And because it rings, the world still remembers. And because the world remembers, it still holds shape. You wake without knowing whether it is morning or night. The sky beyond the cloister has lost its rhythm. The sun rises, but not where it once did. Shadows stretch longer. The color of light has changed slightly golden, slightly green, as though the air has begun to filter the world through memory instead of time. The bell does not wait for you now. It rings once before you rise, as if calling you from within your own bones, not to summon, to align, You eat rarely, not from hunger, but from instinct. Water tastes heavier now, like it has weight beyond gravity. Like each sip carries the silence of something watching you kindly from within the stone. The chapel has grown warm, not with fire, with presence. The candles do not flicker anymore. They burn steadily, even without air. And when you stand before the altar, the ground beneath it no longer hums. It pulses, like a thought forming, like a word preparing to speak. You go to the sanctum again, not to descend, just to stand at the threshold. The mask remains where you left it, but the chamber has changed. Its shape bends subtly now, like breath drawn in and held. The walls glisten faintly, as if moisture is being released from centuries of sleep. Symbols you traced weeks ago now shift when you approach, adjusting, revealing. They are no longer decorations. They are memory paths. The bell tower leans slightly. You didn't notice before. Now you do. The stones are adjusting themselves, as though remembering the shape they once held long ago, in a version of this place before it wore your name. One evening, as you walk past the cloister, you see a shadow cross your path. You stop, turn, no one. But in the center of the courtyard, on the old stone well, something sits. A handprint, small, pressed in ash, still warm. You place your hand over it. It fits, not your size, your shape. It is yours, but from before. A version of you that once walked these stones, or will. You are not confused. You are becoming layered. One night, your own voice speaks in your sleep. You wake with the sound of it still in your mouth. The phrase it says is short, soft. It is not in your language, but you understand. It means we are not forgotten. We are the forgetting. The journal you once wrote in lies closed now, its pages turned to ash without fire. You do not mourn it. The words have already sunk into the chapel walls, into the rope of the bell, into the floor where your steps wear new paths that the earth itself follows. The sanctum pulses once, louder than before. You hear it in the sky. The stars flicker slightly, like they too are listening. And when you sit beside the altar, you begin to feel the presence fully for the first time. It no longer hides. It no longer hums. It leans forward, slow and vast, and rests itself across your shoulders. Not heavy, but certain. And inside your chest, a new sound begins. Not your heartbeat. Another, like the ringing of a bell struck just once and left to echo in eternity. A resonance that says, soon. And you know, without fear, that what waits beneath is no longer asleep. It is watching. And the stone that holds it is not a prison. It is a skin. And you are now part of that body. Still yourself, but deeper, wider, echo and flesh. The chapel is no longer a place. It is a pulse, a center of gravity. The air does not stir with wind anymore, but with intention. The walls do not echo, they breathe. You walk the stones as one walks memory. Every corridor leads inward now. Every doorway is a reflection. Every candle burns not with fire, but with meaning. You no longer speak aloud. Words have become unnecessary. What needs to be said is felt. What must be known is carried. The bell has not rung in 3 days, and yet the sound lingers in the air, as if struck somewhere beyond time. You do not touch the rope anymore. The tower breathes without you. The sanctum below remains open. The mask still waits, but you feel no need to wear it again. You are already wearing it within. The presence beneath the chapel no longer pulses with mystery. It is calm now, settled, as if it has returned fully to itself, as if your years of silence, of tending, of listening, were enough to allow it to remember what it once was. Or who? One night, the stars go still. Not vanish, just pause. You stand outside in the cold, wrapped in nothing but the rhythm in your chest, and for the first time, the valley goes completely quiet. No wind, no bells, no trees. You hold your breath and feel the heartbeat beneath your feet grow slow, steady, then slower still, and then complete, not dead, not gone, returned, absorbed into the stone. And for the first time, you understand. The bell was not built to hold something in. It was built to carry something forward. A memory, a name, a presence that once walked the world in flesh, then light, then echo, and now stone. And you were the last tone, the closing vibration, the breath between silence and silence. You return to the chapel, sit before the altar. The stone no longer pulses. It rests, as do you. You close your eyes, not to sleep, but to dissolve. You feel yourself thinning, not vanishing, but becoming light, becoming presence, becoming the stillness that future footsteps will disturb. One day, someone will find the monastery, not because they seek it, because it calls them, because somewhere, beneath the moss, the old bell will sound once, and someone, somewhere, will stop, will listen, and whisper, it still rings, and you no longer flesh, but shape will answer, not with sound, with silence, not with words, with presence, because nothing was lost, only kept, and the bell was never a warning. It was a memory, made of stone and breath, and you were its last echo, and its first.